The purpose of this video is to cover transparent encryption agent availability when communication to the CipherTrust Manager is lost. To start with, when you have more than one CipherTrust Manager in a cluster, it is an HA cluster, meaning the agent is aware of all members of the cluster, and as long as any CipherTrust Manager is reachable, then there's no impact at all. It would simply communicate to whatever CipherTrust Managers remain available to them. But in the event no CipherTrust Manager is available, for example due to a network issue, then in that situation the agent becomes isolated. It already has its policy and key, so it will continue to run until the agent is restarted, for example when a reboot takes place. When the agent restarts, it needs to communicate to a CipherTrust Manager to get its key and policy. However, there is a way to use the last cached policy and key. So when you register the host or client with the agent, there is a method here that is unique to that host. There's two options. There's generate and manual. What is specified here essentially is a secret that is used to encrypt the last policy and key for this particular host. So when we sent the policy and key to this host, WinServer1, in that situation, under the covers, we will, in a protected area, an encrypted area, we will cache that policy and key. But the secret that's used to protect that data is not stored on that host at all. You must provide it. And that is what this option does. If you choose manual, then it is simply a static password and key. Right? I can put anything in there I want, or I can generate, and it is unique for this host, although I could use the same static password across multiple hosts. But anyway, it is a method by which that a secret is generated so that I can go and load the last cache policy and key. If I choose generate, then you don't know what that secret is. So in that situation, the secret is a response from the client. So the client sends, or you simply get information from the client called the challenge. You put that information in here and it generates the response for you. And it is unique per challenge. So that means there's communication loss between the agent and CipherTrust Manager, but the CipherTrust Manager is still available. So we have, situations where, you have a remote transparent encryption agent running on a host or server, and the data center or cloud is the CipherTrust still a manager and still available to somebody, but those two can't communicate to each other. In that situation, you could use this method, right? I access the CipherTrust Manager out of band communication, and I use the challenge response methodology to generate the secret. However, if the CipherTrust Manager is down entirely, then in that situation you must have the manual method enabled, or you simply will have to wait until the CipherTrust Manager becomes available again in order to, for it to serve up the key and policy to the agent. Okay. Again, this all assumes communication is lost and the agent has rebooted. So let's walk our way through one of those situations. So on a Windows server, I have a SQL Server database that is encrypted. Let me quickly demonstrate that the database is running. The database is active, and I have a guard point. Of SQL data. And so when I turn off communication to CipherTrust Manager or the CipherTrust Manager cluster, this guard point will remain active, and the database will have no impact on that database. So let me demonstrate the communication going down. So now I'm going to turn off the network. So now the network is down and the CipherTrust Manager is unavailable. In this case, I turned the network off for the entire host, so it can reach no outside entity at all. Let's go back to the environment. And again, see, it has no impact at all on this CipherTrust Manager, or excuse me, on this Windows server. So now let's reboot this server, and when it comes back up, it's not going to be able to reach CipherTrust Manager, and therefore it can't get its policy and key. So now the server is rebooted. You can see that that network is not available. And I'm immediately prompted with this challenge response. So this is an indication that the transparent encryption agent has been rebooted and it is configured for challenge response and it cannot reach the CipherTrust Manager. So here's my challenge. So I'm going to take this challenge and I'm going to generate the response. Okay, I go back to the Windows server and I'm going to enter that challenge into the challenge response area for that host. And I get the responses that I need to then use in the CipherTrust or on the transparent encryption agent. And I'm prompted for each part of the response. And you notice now that the file system agent is unlocked. If I go back to my SQL Server host, the database should be available. In the SQL Server instance, you may need to restart SQL Server and or detach and reattach the SQL Server database. The reason is when the host was rebooted, the guard point does become active, but it doesn't have a key and policy. Therefore, it allows no access to the data at all. All the database files that we're protecting is completely locked down. Therefore, SQL Server didn't have access to the data files. So to clear up the confusion, you simply have to make the database available. There is no corruption or anything like that. It's just, hey, if I stop SQL Server or if I attach and reattach the database from the database instance, then SQL Server knows it can now work with the files and everything works. Now let's look at Linux environment and using the static password method. In the Linux world, the behavior is the same, but instead of being prompted or initiating the challenge response, you use the vmset command. And you use vmset challenge to begin the challenge response, or VMSec password to enter the static password to pull out the last cache policy and key. And that's all there is to emergency starting of the transparent encryption agent.